Surprise, surprise, as WrestleMania looms, so do the reports of Brock Lesnar returning to WWE. Initial reports have Brock returning at the Royal Rumble. Of course, this is his annual appearance as the surprise entry into the Rumble, which I don't know how much of a surprise it is anymore. If you keep doing the same thing every year, it kind of loses its luster. But then, of course, his subsequent meaningless feud and match at WrestleMania. It's a rinse and repeat process with Brock Lesnar. But the interesting note here is about 90 minutes after that initial report, a contradicting report saying that Brock Lesnar could show up next Saturday at Survivor Series in Chicago. Now, if that's the case, you got to believe WWE has a match for Brock Lesnar planned for the Rumble. Not just announcing an entry next Saturday night and showing up at the Rumble. This would have to be a match, and maybe that's part of their plan to fill up that stadium with tens of thousands of fans. Tropicana Field, Tampa Bay, Florida. It's possible. Either way, Survivor Series Rumble, you're getting Brock Lesnar back. Now look, I have no problem up front with Brock. There's still a lot of value in Brock Lesnar. He still has a lot to offer WWE. He's believable. He's realistic. He's badass. I just hope WWE has something creative for him that truly interests the fans, but best utilizes Brock. Because what happened with Cody because of the audible and keeping the title on Roman Reigns? Brock then attacked Cody for no reason. And to this day, there's never been a reason. Broke Cody's arm several times, and then in their third and final bout, they just hugged it out. It was so odd. And then he rode off into the sunset, waiting for his next Rumble appearance. Something better has to be in store. I mean, this is Brock Lesnar we're talking about. Of course, he shouldn't be winning the Rumble and taking Roman's title at WrestleMania. We know we've seen 1,006 matches between those two. Don't need to see that ever again. And Sethington Rollins. No, Brock Lesnar should not be taking his title. He should not be in a main event at Mania in 2023 if he's just going to go right back to the farm until SummerSlam or Crown Jewel later in the year. Of course not. But on the flip side, you can't have Brock come back just to do meaningless matches with dudes like Omos on the grandest stage of them all. That's not how you best utilize Brock Lesnar. And I understand WWE had big plans for Omos, right? Omos was supposed to win the Money in the Bank briefcase at one point, or at least was heavily discussed within those walls of World Wrestling Entertainment. So we shouldn't be too surprised that they put Omos in there with Brock to get some type of a rub on the grandest stage of them all. They really wanted to pump up Omos. But you don't do that at the expense of Brock Lesnar with the position that Brock is currently in and how part-time he truly is. Now another superstar on his way back, imminently. In fact, we have a date, November 24th. This is the day after Thanksgiving. And he's scheduled for the Smackdown tapings of the 8th and the 15th of December. So I'm not sure about the 1st. Maybe there's a taping on the 24th. But definitely the 24th of November, 8th and 15th of December. And that is Sheamus. Sheamus, last seen August 18th, losing to Edge in Copeland's last match with WWE. He was handpicked by Edge. Now, at that time, he was already dealing with a shoulder and neck injury. And Edge picked him for that match, so you got to believe he got even more banged up, and we haven't seen him in about 4 months, right? August, September, October, and here we are, end of November, he'll be back. So it was significant enough, these injuries, to take him out for several months. He is returning end of this month. His contract does end with WWE, much like Drew McIntyre coming up next year. So he's one of those individuals, you know, Edge, he's really close with Edge. Drew McIntyre was on the fence of his future, and Sheamus, we're hearing there has been no talks about restructuring his next deal with WWE. He's one of those interesting characters who could say, listen, we need to have a talk. Like, what do you have for me? Do you see me as an asset? Am I a reliability in this company or a liability? Do you see me as a star or do you see me as, or should I say, do you see me as a shining star or do you see me as a fading star? You know, these are talks that have to be had, right? Edge, Adam Copeland had these talks with Paul Levesque McMahon, right? They both gave their version of the story. Levesque McMahon said, we just felt it was time. Adam Copeland said, literally in a statement, I felt I had more, they didn't, end of story. They kind of forced Edge out of WWE. He wanted to do more, the company said no. McIntyre, what is his booking? He becomes the 5th member at WarGames Survivor Series, and then what? What do you have for him after that? If you're going to turn him heel, why wasn't this done when he came back after his hiatus after Mania? Come back, Money in the Bank, London, and attack Seth Rollins. Because they ended up doing that match anyway with Drew and Seth. And they were both kind of tweener faces. Or no, he was a tweener face, Seth Rollins full face because he's got the sing-along. So why not, if you're going to do the match, have him come back as a heel? Everything is ass backwards. They do the match, they're both basically faces. And then after the Seth Rollins match, then they decide to turn Drew McIntyre heel possibly if he shows up with Judgment Day as the 5th member at WarGames. This is all ass backwards. This is the type of booking that will drive people right out of the company. So in other words, Sheamus, he's got decisions to make with his contract coming up. This run is going to tell everything. How he's booked coming back. Is he just going to have 6-man tags with his Brawling Brutes brethren? I hope not. That's not entertaining. And Apollo Crews is returning, or already has. Now, this is interesting. And I mention Apollo Crews because these are actually capturing some headlines, and this is actually a big news story today. Apollo Crews is on his way back because he said recently in a post how he's been out for a little bit with an injury, but it felt good to be back in the ring. And a lot of people, they alluded this to mean that he's training again and his return to television is imminent. But guys, he already returned on Monday Night Raw, but it wasn't on Raw. It was a show called Main Event. It was a taping. But Monday night, November 6th, this past Monday, or should I say last Monday, he already returned. He was in a match with Ludwig Kaiser and he lost to Kaiser. So that's what he was saying. He was just saying it was good to be back in the ring. Like literally, he was already doing a taping for WWE. He's already in front of a crowd. So just clearing up a story. A lot of people think he's training again. He'll be back soon. No, Apollo is saying he already was. It's just that nobody really watches Main Event. I don't even know how to catch Main Event. I don't know if that's an actual show somewhere or if it's just on this platform on the tube. Who knows? Or maybe it's just on WWE.com. I don't know, but it's a show called Main Event. Apollo has returned. Now, a lot of you guys are like, I didn't know Apollo was gone. And sadly, I don't blame you at all. Apollo has been an afterthought. And he's such a good dude. It's sad to say that. But if you would have told me that Apollo was part of the firings, the cuts earlier this year, I wouldn't have batted an eyelash. I wouldn't have blinked. I wouldn't have thought twice. I would have believed you. If you said, oh yeah, Apollo was part of those cuts, right? I probably would have said, oh yeah, that's a shame. I wouldn't have thought that, oh yeah, he went out on an injury back in August. Because that's when he left with this supposed injury. We don't know exactly what it was. He didn't disclose it. But back in August was his last match before last Monday with Kaiser. So this dude was out August, September, October. This dude was out over 3 months. And not once did BC or probably most of you think, where's Apollo? And that's sad. Apollo's got talent. I don't know if he's got that charisma fully. When he went back to NXT, I saw a lot of good things. I saw that he could be implemented in storylines that we would care about. It's all about how you're utilizing him, right? The creative part of it. And unless Levesque McMahon and his team really dedicates the proper time and effort into Apollo, I don't know how high this guy can go and what he can truly achieve in WWE. Or is the writing on the wall in the next round of cuts after WrestleMania in 2024? Because that's what we're hearing. A big round of cuts is planned. It was supposed to be this year, a second round. They held off. Now that TKO Holdings is losing so much and their flywheel is nowhere near the 100 million they were hoping to cut cost effectively, this could be most likely going to be a bigger round of cuts. Don't be shocked if Apollo is in those. We're hoping that's not the case, and we're hoping that when Apollo comes back to actual TV, Raw, Smackdown, pay-per-views, hopefully we care, and it leads to really good things for Apollo. Because thus far, after years, NXT and main roster, nothing seems to be clicking. So on one hand, good to see the dude, respect the dude, want the best for the dude. On the other hand, I don't know if the company knows what to do with Apollo. And the question still remains, does Apollo have the it factor to captivate an audience? We'll see on this next run. And Becky Lynch. Becky has not really been seen on WWE television, maybe a backstage segment or two, but definitely not in the ring or anything prevalent since she lost the NXT championship to Val. But Becky is a name we're hearing, the top candidate to assist Team Felair at WarGames next Saturday, should they go through with this women's WarGames match against Damage Control. Co-captains Charlie Flair, Bianca Belair, I call it Team Felair, with Shotzi by their side, and Becky Lynch would be the fourth individual. That is the name we're hearing WWE is going with to take on Bayley, Io Shirai, Io Sky, Asuka, and Kairi Sane. Of course, Dakota Kai not ready to go yet, especially not into a WarGames match. So, Becky Lynch. Now, all respect to Becky, but this makes zero sense. Becky is on Monday Night Raw. Where does she even fit into this equation, A? B, who would approve this? You started this bickering thing between Nick Aldis, general manager of SmackDown, and Adam Pearce, general manager of the Red Brand. So now we're just letting people cross over. The bickering is done. You're working together again. That's what you're telling us, right? With 1 week to go, a little over before WarGames. Just doesn't make sense, especially at a time where you are starting this Aldis and Pearce thing, which I like, by the way. And the other issue would be, we just saw this match. You just took out a couple components and you're putting a couple new ones in. But last year, 2022, WarGames, Damage Control was in WarGames against Bianca Belair and Becky Lynch. The only difference, that was a traditional 5-on-5, which I'm hoping this still will be. And then you can have Becky some way, but still have somebody else too, and maybe it makes a little bit more sense. Maybe Damage Control finds a fifth, or can Dakota go? Who knows where she is injury-wise. But last year, Becky Lynch and Bianca Belair had Asuka, Alexa Bliss, and Mia Yim by their side, and they took on Damage Control. So that's my point. If you put in Becky, guys, you're almost doing the same match from last year. You're just taking out a couple pieces and putting a couple in. So that's just one thing. For those that don't forget easily, for those that do remember these type of matches, because it was just a year ago, man, how is Becky the best suitable option? I mean, if we're going to go into an outrageous route, then I'm going NXT. I'm going to bring up Roxy for that night, whether she's getting a traditional straight-up call-up or not. Bring up Roxy. Show the entire wrestling world, who doesn't know a lot about Roxanne Perez today. She'll always be Roxy to BC. But bring up Roxy, and trust me, she will captivate you inside Hell in a Cell, Elimination Chamber, a Royal Rumble, a WrestleMania main event. Roxy will captivate you. Tiffany Stratton. That's right, that's a hot take. BC, she's green, BC. No, she's not. She's better than Charlie Flair in many areas already. BC, she's not ready for WarGames. BS. She's absolutely ready for WarGames. Have you seen Tiffany Stratton's matches with Becky Lynch? Some of the best of 2023 for ladies wrestling. You put her in this match, you have fans that never gave a second look over to NXT, more specifically Tiffany Stratton, and they're going, damn, more of that. So yeah, if you want to go wild card and bring over Becky, let's go wild. Roxy, Tiffany Stratton, could you imagine them inside WarGames? absolutely crushing it, because I can. So it'll be interesting to see what they're doing with the ladies for WarGames, and if indeed Becky Lynch is the name they decide on. Over with AEW, an interesting note for AEW. Not a lot of heavy news for AEW, but this is an interesting discussion. Tony Khan recently announced, and I believe this was just Saturday Night Collision, I believe. Tony Khan, and he had Bryan Danielson with him, and they announced a Continental Classic tournament. Now, I'll do more research on this. I don't believe anything is truly on the line or anything. It's just a Continental Classic trophy, maybe? Maybe you get a title opportunity. Maybe you get another diamond ring. Who knows? I just came across this topic, and this is very interesting, and not for the best of ways. A Continental Classic tournament. It's starting November 22nd, so that's a Dynamite, I believe. That's a Wednesday before Thanksgiving. So on Dynamite, you're going to start this. It's going to be a round of 12. And they're going to crown, I don't know, a new Continental Classic champ. I don't know. Guys, a tournament has been ran into the ground in pro wrestling. WWE, AEW, there's no company that's exempt from this. They've ran tournaments into the ground. Tournaments used to be very sporadic, and they used to be special because of such, right? They're only placed in certain times, very few and far in between, and something big is on the line. Till the introduction of King of the Ring, most of the time it was for championships, like WrestleMania 4 when Macho Man Randy Savage went through that badass tournament. During WrestleMania, they did the whole tournament, and Macho Man came up with that championship. I think it was that over Ted DiBiase, the $1 Million Man? And then the King of the Ring was introduced, but they made that a standalone pay-per-view. They made it prestigious, and you truly wanted to be the King of the Ring. None of this hocus-pocus BS today with Xavier becoming king and King Corbin and every other type of king underneath the sun. No, King of the Ring was special. And then you do another tournament here, another tournament there over the years. Okay, let's do it. But at what point is it ran into the ground? Well, for BC, it's been years now. There's a tournament every time you turn around. There's a tournament to crown a new king, and then another queen, and then another king that year. There's the Owen Hart. Much love and respect to Owen and the fam, but there's the Owen Hart. There's the tournament to decide who is the best in the world. I think that was Shane McMahon. I don't know if there was a follow-up to that one. There's tournaments to decide vacancies with championships every single time you turn around. When you hear there's a vacancy for a title, get ready for a tournament. The second Samoa Joe announced that he was vacating his ROH television championship, my first thought was good, because you shouldn't be in the mid-card. Go for the main event spots. My other thought was, oh no, another tournament. And maybe, by the way, I don't know if there's been a decision on this. Maybe the Continental Classic tournament will decide the new ROH champion too. Who knows what they're going to do? But don't be shocked if that's a separate tournament. Whether big or small, whatever scale. Or they'll just throw 30 people in the ring and have a battle royal to crown the new championship, which is also ran into the ground. But my point is this the best thing to pull in ratings when at a time where AEW desperately needs better ratings, especially on Collision and Rampage? But even Dynamite is struggling to pull 800,000 consistently on Wednesday nights. And it has been proven that these tournaments drive fans away. Of course, you're going to have a niche that doesn't mind it. They just want to watch wrestling action, right? There's a niche audience in pro wrestling, not just AEW, but pro wrestling in general. It's a niche audience that just wants to watch flips, dives, and sequences, right? They'll be at home, not even live in the crowd. They'll be chanting, "This is awesome. Fight forever." Right? They just want to watch all the wrestling moves go on. They'll act like it's the greatest thing since sliced bread, and then immediately when it's over, they'll never go back and watch the match again. They'll forget about it 20 minutes later because they're on to the next really great wrestling match. There's no story behind it. There's no care. You won't be interested enough to go back and intricately dissect the match. Nothing. But there's that niche audience. They just give them any two wrestlers, wrestler A, wrestler B, have them do the flips, the dives, the sequences, do the chants. And to them, they'll feel like they just had a night with sunny days. And the rest of the audience, which is the majority of the wrestling fans, they won't care a single lick about these matches in these tournaments. These meaningless tournaments. Continental Classic. Best in the world. And even King of the Ring these days. We're having these tournaments like it's NFL playoffs or Major League Baseball World Series, NBA playoffs. It's one thing to really make your audience believe that this is true athletic competition. But it's not interesting when we know that you're just taking a clipboard, you're taking a Post-it note, and in 5 minutes you're writing down 12 names. You're just in 5 minutes you're basically writing the next 4 weeks of television. You'll go over him, and then you're going to take on the guy of this match, and there you go. We don't have to get creative. We don't have to come up with interesting television. We're just going to do a bunch of wrestling matches, fill up our shows, and call it a day. And then you wonder why your ratings are in the shitter. It's not captivating television for the majority of the audience. We can see amazing wrestling matches at the local bingo hall 17 times a week. Your shows better produce more than just wrestling matches. These tournaments are completely boring for the majority of wrestling fans. And they keep doing them. I understand it's easy television. But easy television is giving you the numbers that you're pulling in. And they're not good. And by the way, Bryan Danielson was announced to be the first participant in this tournament. Bryan Danielson needs to relax for several more months. He is so banged up with so many nagging and larger injuries, and he just wants to get right back in there and go right back at it. Somebody at some point is going to have to say, dude, we'd love to have you back, can't wait, but we're going to have to. Stay home for a couple more months, totally regroup, get your body right, come back when you're ready to truly rock. Bryan Danielson needs a moment to just relax. The last thing he should be thinking about is a tournament to do wrestling sequences, get more banged up, and repeat the process. Anyway, that's what I got for you guys, man. The Continental Classic Tournament, man. That'll truly give AEW the boost it needs, because we have not seen a tournament in AEW in the longest of times. At least a few weeks. BC, man. Until next time, and there will be that next time. Top guys, we are out. BC, saying check you.